Hi there, you're listening to the Guitar Speak podcast, the show I produce in Sydney, Australia, where I speak to leading guitarists and guitar figures from all around the world. My name is Matt Wakeling, and thank you so much for joining me for episode number 99. Now today, our friend Simon Kinny-Lewis returns to speak about his fantastic new record, Bad Whiskey, which finds Simon and his band in red-hot form. Simon effortlessly mixes his soulful blues playing with searing tones and some really cool harmonic twists along the way. Of course, Simon's vocals are killer and the whole band is on fire. Simon talks us through the making of the album, including getting Brett Garsed from John Farnham's band on a couple of tracks, touring with Chris Cain whilst breaking through in the US, and much more. Now, Simon appeared on episode 55 of the Guitar Speak podcast, where we got his whole backstory, but today we're focusing in on the last, 14 months or so, which has been an incredible time for Simon and his band. All right, here we go. Simon Kinny-Lewis, welcome back to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you, man. I was just going back through our last conversation. We met in July last year, 2017. That's when you were a guest on the show, and we got up to speed. And now we're going to talk about your new record, Bad Whiskey, which has just come out November 2018. But can we do a quick catch up? Because the last, 14 months or so, you've done stacks of stuff since we last podcasted, so maybe we should just do a quick...
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on, yeah.
Awesome, man. So I think when we spoke, Catfish had just come out?
Yes, that's right.
Yep. So
it was either in the making, in the mixing kind of stages, and I think so. I don't know. I think it was like... Yeah, I think it was kind of in the middle of being mixed.
Sure. And that did really well for you, hey? That was really well received.
It was great. Yeah, it went to number one on the Australian Blues and Roots, and it's got Chris Wilson on harmonica, and I flew him into down from Melbourne down to Sydney for a day, and he's just wonderful. He's probably one of Australia's best harmonica players, I think. Yeah,
absolutely.
Just very emotional and very natural player. Mm-hmm. Like, not contrived, just plays. It sounds like just those old blues records,
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's great. So good. And when we spoke on the podcast, you were talking about getting to meet Chris Cain and working with the guys meant so much to you. And then he invited you out to the States. So was it late 2017?
So that was where we last picked off from.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've done that now. So.
That's killer, man. Tell me about that. How did that go?
Oh, man, it was unbelievable. So I've never been to the States, so that was a great way of, great first introduction. And I just remembered being waiting at, so Susie Tyler, Chris's manager and girlfriend, who's been doing some wonderful things, I might add, for Chris's work. And he's just, playing everywhere from, Russia to Italy to everywhere, to Argentina. And he basically they organised a bunch of gigs for me, and I just remember being picked up in this little Daihatsu with fumes of pot, like a Ching and Chong film, and my drummer Tony came with me, my drummer, and we don't smoke, and I know guys that do, but it was like just something out of a cartoon, and Chris is a very cartoon type character, so
right.
It was just a fun introduction, and it was very welcoming. They picked us up, and straight away we hit. The traffic over there is just unbelievable, and that you can, even when you think you're leaving earlier enough, sometimes you're not. And I remember Chris was a little late for that first gig that we did. And it was just everything from that point on, the start of that tour was just, it never stopped. It was just relentless. So that was the very first gig I played at Biscuits and Blues, which was, basically, one of the most famous little blues bars in San Francisco, Buddy Guy, Eric Clapton. I mean, everyone's played there. And that was awesome. And then, so we did about 8 gigs on that first trip. And then I went over again about 6 months later I did some work with the same band that Chris put me with, which was an amazing band actually. Dwayne Pate on bass, who is on all the Four Brothers records and all the Blues Rocket stuff from, all those wonderful old recordings that Patrick Ford, Robben Ford's brother, produced. And I had Nate Ginsburg on keys, who was in Herbie Hancock's Monster Band, and the list goes on. The guys that we played with at jams and stuff. There was Jim Pugh from Robert Cray's band. I mean, it was just, and they're just at some of these clubs. They're just like little kind of little bars, at some of the places we're playing, and you said it's kind of mind blowing. You go, Jesus, this is just insane. Like if these guys were in Australia, they'd be playing some like the Enmore, and here they are, just sitting in at a jam at the powerhouse, and but wonderful history some of these places have, and it's tradition, serving the this one place it was called the Poorhouse Bistro. In San Jose, and they serve all the traditional New Orleans style food, or the Cajun stuff, and it's just a whole other culture there. It's very music based and a lot of blues. So it was an awesome couple of trips. So
very cool, man. That's fantastic. So so it's all West Coast. Those bunch of dates.
Yeah. I mean, there's. The style, I guess, a lot of the stuff was from, basically from all the traditional stuff that came through it in the early, from way back. There's still the oldest bar there is a place called the Saloon, which is in San Francisco. We haven't actually played there. I mean, that's a very old pub. It's not really like an exclusive music venue or anything like that. But we second time around, I went to go in that place, and just the stories you hear and the people that you meet that I think, I don't know, I just have so much respect for those guys, because that was the music that I grew up listening to.
Yeah, sure.
And to some people, when I say the Four Brothers or Chris Cain, or I mean Chris was getting his name a little more out there, and that guy should just be known on every blues record store. I mean, he's getting his name out there more now. I mean, not most people in the States know who he is, but it's like, for me, it's very personal because I grew up listening to all that music. So
yeah, sure. That's cool, man. Hey, your new record, just to keep talking about America, you reference a lot of American geography in your own stuff, or there's references to Mississippi, the Down in Mississippi cover, and the Missouri Skies, and the New Orleans tune. Is that just a happy accident, or is that an affinity with the place?
Yeah, that was an accident, really. I mean, for that record, to answer specifically on those three tracks, Down in Mississippi is a J.B. Leonard song, and it was kind of made famous from Crossroads, the movie Crossroads, and I love J.B. Leonard's writing, and Beyond Missouri Skies, it's quite a personal track for me. That song, the chorus is "Like Does Heaven Have a Phone?" It was written for my older brother, who passed away when I was 20, and that song, and I can talk about that now. It took me a very, very long time. When I'm 37 now, it's taken nearly 20 years to be able to sort of process it and everything, and write about it. And I'm really, really happy I wrote a song for him. It was kind of self-counseling in a way. Missouri Skies, it's funny because Steve Hunter wrote a post on Facebook. I jam on that track a little bit, and I put these little videos up on Facebook, and Steve Hunter said, "Hey, isn't that a Pat Metheny album?" And I was like, yes, it is. It's a Pat Metheny, Beyond Missouri Skies. But the funny thing was, it was like an album that we both loved. Or it was an album that when I remembered the cover, I don't know, this sounds a bit weird, but the cover in itself sent this image for me, and that's the start of the song. It's about the sky, it's about the dust, and it was very like about environmental sort of thing. It was like just a painting a picture sort of thing. And then I didn't even realize I was writing a song for him until I sort of got to like halfway through the second verse, and I went, hang on, and all this stuff. And so it's, there's those three verses that's very obvious towards the end of the song. And so I didn't want to call it Does Heaven Have a Phone, or, I felt, look, why not call it that? It's a good name. So, it is American, and then the other one, New Orleans Woman, it just felt like a cool song for, at the time, it was just a thing that went in from my head. I mean, I guess when you listen to a lot of American music and a lot of American blues, some of these things just come in your head, and that's like, if it feels good to sing, and you've already got the story, well, that's how it panned out.
Sure, yeah.
Those ones. It's funny you say that. I haven't thought about that. It is very American oriented. It sounds very American, and there's even a rattlesnake on the front cover. It should be like a King Brown.
It's all good, man. It's all good. I mean, that New Orleans tune that evokes, that kind of chicken picking, that greasy, funky New Orleans kind of vibe. I thought anyway, man. It was great, and obviously, down in Mississippi is the cover, and the Missouri Skies. I mean, thank you for sharing it. I'm sorry you had to go through all that. That's hard, a hard thing for anyone.
Yeah, but it's hard, and you kind of never really get over with it. But you work on ways on how you deal with it. And for me, music's been my savior. Really has, So it's been, when I wrote that song a long, long time ago. And I wanted to record. I could never get through it. In fact, sometimes, actually just 2 nights ago at Lizottes, I got to the third verse and my throat started swelling up for the last 2 lines. It always hits me, that track, when I do it. But and the guys know it's a sensitive song as well. And they're playing so well at the moment, and they've just been playing with Josh Smith, and we did a few album launches in Sydney. We've got one coming up in Melbourne on the 29th or something, but they are playing so well, and they just did this song justice, man, when they played. I mean, they did every song so well, but this one always really sticks, and it's even more intense playing it solo as well. Like last couple of gigs were like, I love that. I mean, I find it hard. Like sometimes, this is what I'm doing full time now, music. So on Friday night, I did a gig at the Club Willoughby. There was like seriously 10 people in the room, and it was 3 sets, And then the next night, I'm playing in front of a whole hall of, like there's 150 or something, maybe more. And it's like that adrenaline, that intense sort of feeling is like what you live for. It's that. But the hard thing is, I think, is going from that, the Sydney environment. I do want to sort of be moving out of Sydney in the next few years, future plans. But for now, I'll get whatever gig I can do, and if it's big or small or whatever it is,
Yeah, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, on the end of that track, you've got like a really long part where you're just wailing. That's a really special part of that tune. And I don't know if you've done this much before. It seemed new to me. You've got, you're doing some harmony guitars, and then they kind of break into counter melodies and things. That wasn't
kind of mixed to my liking, to be absolutely honest. So that was a very quick mix. I had one review on it before, had to get them pressed, and we'll probably be doing a slight remix of the album, just with little things like that. I mean, we're very happy with the way the album's come out, and Simon Cotsworth's a wonderful producer and stuff, and he really balanced the stuff well. But that thing was really fun because it felt like kind of my homage to Eric Clapton's Layla. I grew up on that, the cream of Eric Clapton. My dad used to play that around the house all the time, and there's that section where there's the harmonizing guitars.
Yeah, at the end.
Kind of what I wanted to do on that one. I thought, man, this is just, we'll whack some piano on there. The piano could come out, could cut through a little bit more. It's a huge sound, and you could probably mix it so many different ways, But yeah, that was fun, adding the second guitar and and that was just pretty much improv. There was a set line, there was a melody line, and I'm just doing thirds, and then it just got a bit boring to stay on that one theme. So the rest, like they kind of both kind of start improvising in different.
That's cool. It's fun, man. Nice. We should I should back up a little because I'm jumping into your record, but
No, go ahead.
Well,
Whatever
just
you want, man.
one last question before touring with Josh Smith, which you just mentioned. That's great, man. What a great gig to pick up.
And that guy is a serious player. It was like I've seen I've seen quite a bit of his stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
I haven't been like there's so many guys out there online that you sort of just go from, it's so easy to go from one to the other, and especially that Jam Track Central side. It's like, God, who's this new dude? And it's it's like, oh my God, listen to this guy. So Josh was one of those guys who's kind of on my radar. He became on my radar because my band was doing the gig, and they were like, man, you check out this guy, and Jed Ullman, who got me for the support. I'm very grateful for that. But I was really blown away with, like, he is a monster player. I mean, he's the cream of the crop of blues guitar, in my opinion. He's kind of like, I don't know, he's got this wonderful hybrid picking, from the chicken picking influences. So he's got that, brings that to the table with the blues stuff, and most importantly for me is the songwriting. Like, his set was just really cool. The guys had to learn all his songs. There's some great songs in there, like How Long, The Pusher. Just all really cool songs and arrangements, and really held it well as a trio. Like some guys kind of hard work as well. I mean, he's got a lot of he's doing that stuff all the time, and he's just playing all night, man. He was just relentless. So that was great. And it always hits me when I open for a guy like that, or when I was playing with Chris and just jamming with him, and those shows there. You can't help but be affected by that. I'm always back in my little cave, picking up my guitar again, just going, man, what was that? Let's get that thing down, or kind of just, just checking yourself, man, like, something that you've done that you think could be worked on, or just taken a little bit further. You go, no, I know I'm not gonna muck around with anything else because it's going to take away time from practicing on this thing or whatever. It's kind of prioritizing whatever you want to, work on. But they're very influential playing with these guys. It's just tremendous,
Yeah, that's great, man. That's so good. Awesome, man. So, Bad Whiskey, so it's just come out. It's probably 3 or 4 weeks been released, I guess. Where did you record it? What was the process like for that?
We recorded in Sydney at Balmain at a friend's studio, Sean Rudd. So I've done some gigs with him. He's a bass player and engineer, and we filmed and recorded that at the Vault. And then I did so not all of that stuff was live. I mean, there's 5 live videos of us recording. We had a whole camera crew and everything on the day, on the 3 days, but I did some overdubs in my studio for the guitar solos, because we're more or less focusing on just getting the rhythm stuff down, and it also would give me a bit more time. When you're doing a record, you want to have a few cracks at a solo. You don't want to just do one, and I wanted to make this a good record, and also paying tribute to my brother, and they came out really well. We also had keys that had to be overdubbed later as well. So the footage you see of the solos and the keys were done in my studio, and the keyboard player Shannon Stitt is someone we've used for about 20 gigs now, and he's just he's just awesome. He recently just did a gig with Karen Andrews, Miss Murphy, absolutely amazing singer, and he's playing with everybody, and so I feel privileged when he's playing with us, and he totally digs the gig as well. And now I've got some footage I'll be putting on Facebook really soon of him just tearing it up, and the stuff he plays just over a blues, man, is unbelievable, and it's inspiring. We feed off each other, and the band is really cooking, so it's good. He's brought some great stuff to that album.
It's great, man. I do like how you've your last few projects you film a lot of the recording process, so we can check it out. That's heaps good.
Film nerd. Yeah, I like doing it. I mean, I think also I have a bit of a tendency, I think we all do, with this day and age. Like, I mean, from what I've spoken to other guitar players, when you're playing a solo of it's so easy to sort of like at the end of a solo, or might be just the ending of something, to kind of try and fix it, or kind of just try and, like do the solo in two chunks. I know a lot of guys do that, do the pre-record, let's fix that ending line or whatever. Yep. I mean, that's, that's, the tools are there to do that. But the beautiful thing about having a camera on you is you can't. Yes. It's like you play it, and I mean, there are many times where I'll have the camera on and I'll go for a take, and it's like, oh man, I'm not feeling it today. Or, it's just, if I'm rested, well rested, and the energy's there, it's just the best feeling in the world, just getting that take. And that's how music's meant to be. It's like, I really believe that. It's my favorite recordings mostly are live recordings, because everything's just, it's the interaction with everybody. It's reacting to the song. And this is another thing that I do in my recordings. I make sure the vocals recorded first, so I can actually react to the song with the solo.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can kind of talk. It's a conversation. The whole thing is like, it's a package. It's not like insert the solo, or let's try and nail this really cool lick. Press stop. Got it. Let's record another thing. It's stuff like that. Is just it just doesn't. It's not creative for me. It's just it lacks this creative flow. I mean, you can get stuff to happen. But I mean, that's why I love filming the stuff. Also, to expose the band. A big part of filming this album was to expose the band, the new songs. We're very happy with this lineup. Tony and Rob really are. I think one of the best rhythm sections in Australia. I mean, they really cut Josh's gig. Like, every time I saw them play on Friday night after I came from my gig at the Club Willoughby, and every sound guy was like, "Man, who's this band?" And I said, "Oh, that's Rob Ewan and Todd. It's my band. I'm very proud of them. I mean, they did the work. They did countless rehearsals for it, and they have just formed this very cool relationship. So yeah." And Josh was happy as well, so
that's great.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about Josh a fair bit, because I'm still buzzing from helping him out and watching him do his thing.
For
and everything.
Sure, of course, man, of course.
Yeah.
Hey, the first track, Bad Whiskey, it's a rock and shuffle. Man, there's some really cool sort of outside lines that you're mixing with more straight ahead blues stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Which has always been part of your deal, I know.
Yeah, there's a few little things that I just get bored sticking to the straight pentatonic, and there's just a few little things that I'll put in. I mean, there's still stuff now that I'm like, I get bored with, and I'm trying to make, I'm just trying to change that each time and keep things fresh. That solo was a very, very organic solo. A friend of mine lent me his telly for that, and seriously, it was like the first thing I played on the telly was that solo.
Oh wow.
And it was weird, because usually I'm very, if I've got another guitar other than the yellow Strat, I've got to think, where that telly was kind of just, it was set up so well, it was just like bang. Didn't have, and I've never recorded on a telly before, so I really dug that guitar, and I think I will get a telly at some point. And the other solo was down in Mississippi, but there's some outside stuff in there, typical sort of triad down a semitone,
mm-hmm.
For a few seconds, and then back to the blues. And
yeah, it's cool, man. It's a cool recipe.
Some extra diminished stuff. I love that sound. Again, it's from the Robben Ford stuff. Probably my all-time favorite guitar player. And it's just, again, it's just using that salt and pepper, just a bit here and there, and it just creates, just a twist for your ear, and keeps things a bit different,
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. I loved. I got to your masterclass back in August, and I loved it. It was so inspiring to get a peek inside.
Right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Loved it, man.
Yeah, my very small masterclass. That there's some problems with some publicity there, but yeah, no, thanks for coming down to that. That's great. Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly all the stuff that I talked about on that. That's basically all I do. I mean, it's one thing I really work on because I'm very drawn to that sound of, and it's a real juggle. Like it's not it's like taking those things, like I mentioned before, like a triad down the semitone, or like a melodic minor upper semitone on the 5 chord, or upper semitone on the 4 chord if you're going from a 1 to a 4. Those little things, there is so much stuff you can, it is never ending, like jazz players, it's something that once you sort of get the bug for, you're just constantly drawn to that sound, and it's addictive. That's definitely one of my, probably why I like, guys like, early Larry Carlton, Robben Ford, Chris puts it in his playing, Josh, it's just refreshing to the ears, and yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
Absolutely,
absolutely. Hey, we mentioned that track Down in Mississippi. You got Brett Garsed on that track. How did that come about?
I do. Well, so Tony did a few shows with him for, I think it was like a guitar headstock or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so he did. Brett was on that, and I was joking with Rob because I was trying. He recorded on 2 tracks actually on the album, Straight Talker and Down in Mississippi. So yeah, basically, Tony put me in touch with Brett, and I gave him the song, and he did a great job. It's awesome actually having someone like that on the album. What's so wonderful with his quality of playing is like he just sent me 1 track and that was it, and there was no need for revisions or anything. It was just perfect. The guy's an absolute monster. And the track Straight Talker, I spent like a week with a slide on my finger trying to nail this stuff myself for the record.
Yep.
Because I don't play slide regularly, and since that moment, I've actually learned a bit. I bought one the other day, and I've learned myself. Learned a couple of songs on it, and I think that's what helped. It was that frustration of not being able to get this thing down, and then going, "Hang on, I need someone that can do it." And Rob and I were joking at lunch before. We're kind of thinking, shit, we better get this done because it's the last thing needed for the album. We've got our launches coming up, and the tracks are only half mixed. So we actually joked about getting Brett, and we thought, as if we'd be able to get Brett Garsed, like he's probably way too busy or whatever,
Yeah.
But next morning he gave me a call, and it was great, and he's a lovely guy.
Yes,
very efficient. Will tell you when he's going to get the stuff done. If I want anything changed. And the actual chorus for Down in Mississippi, he actually came up with. There was a few little lines I gave him guides for, but then it got to this point where I was just like, I can't have this thing on my finger anymore. I just think of something, man. And he came up with this part for the chorus, and it was exactly the part I was kind of envisioning. And so, just wonderful musician to work with. I love his playing, just amazing. So.
And he filmed that as well, because I noticed you've been able to add that to your footage.
He did. The story with the filming on that is he originally filmed his stuff in a garage at his studio, which is basically like a kind of a garage, and it wasn't kind of going to go too well with the actual because Phil Edwards, who was the producer of production films. Performance film, sorry, allowed me to put some input on the editing side. And so, first thing was first, like I said, man, I need to get Brett filmed. He needs to sort of mime those parts again. So he did that. The solos are easy enough that he could mime those things,
sure.
So those are actually mimed in the actual live sessions, but, just to make them look a little bit better and whatnot. But,
Sure.
The things you do.
Yeah, man. I've plugged into a pop plant for a live inverted commas video before, so you can do whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, you're planning to make a video for this song though, a separate music video with a tribute to JB Lenoir, the composer. Do you want to talk through that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that actually. So I started to fall in love with his music when I did an arrangement. He's Down in Mississippi, and what I discovered about the guy was he, for the time of, it was around the 60s, he was writing, about stuff that not a lot of other blues artists were writing about, very political issues, a lot about war, and a lot about racism as well, and, kind of like the Bob Dylan of the blues, and that he, was kind of pushing the boundaries at the time. And so basically I wanted to do a tribute to him, pay homage to his work by doing a film clip for his Down in Mississippi track. And I discovered this, I wanted footage of cotton picking, like real cotton picking back in the 1930s and stuff. So I started a GoFund campaign that I'm actually, it's a few days in. I've already got nearly a couple $100. I don't need that much money for it. It's about $1,000 is the goal, but the footage is very expensive. I've got a second baby here, and so everything adds up. So I wasn't going to do it just merely because one little piece of footage is like $70 for like 20 seconds of footage. Because it's very hard to come by this stuff. So I thought, look, if I could start a GoFund, and then anyone that donates, then I give them an album or mail an album out. They're kind of buying the album, and they also helping a good thing. So that I bought my first bit of 1930s footage the other day, and I'll be sort of putting some stuff on my Facebook wall to sort of give you guys a bit of a picture of how I'm sort of putting it together. But I think the film thing, I'm getting quite savvy in Final Cut because of all these guitar videos I put together.
Yeah, great.
And so for me, it was very fun actually putting together. Well, fun, maybe not the word. It was very it was fun once it was finished, but it's quite time consuming putting together. I mean, I did most of the editing for the Live at the Vault sessions with Tony and Rob and Shannon. And this thing is really cool. Like I can see this thing really happening. It's a very atmospheric track. It's a wonderful song. And I really recommend anyone that's in the blues checking out J.B. Linner's writing. It's something very special, and I'm sure there's a lot to be, gained from learning some of his songs for sure.
Great, man. You said you did a lot of the guitars at home. Are you still using your Kemper for those main tones?
Yes, I am. In fact, I'm recording an album right now with. This is sort of taking me back to the States with basically it's nearly the Four Brothers band. I've got Dwayne Pate and Nate Ginsburg. I'm using the Kemper. Look, where I am at the moment, I've had to move into an apartment. So it's, as you know, as a guitarist and the way of the world is, these things are getting so damn good that it's like, that will allow me to record the sounds I want in a little apartment without,
amazing.
Getting people really angry and stuff like that. Yeah. But I have to say, when I was in San Jose and we had Walter Jebb playing some slide on the record, and he had a big amp mic'd up and everything, man, that's a great sound too. And I really would like to do more of that sort of stuff. Maybe next trip as well, but this next record's nearly done. It's called A Day in San Jose, and it's a blues album. It's all covers, but it was just something that Tony and I wanted to do while we're there. And it will have Andy Just on harmonica from the Four Brothers, and we're hoping that we can get Chris Cain on there. So Chris said he'd do it, but Chris is like always, he's so busy, and he's also he'll kind of just say stuff like, "Oh man, I'll do that," but it's like pinning him down to do it is the next thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, our hopes are quite high that he will, and the people that are on the record are his very close friends, and and I'm sure it's going to be a great record. I'm sure some good will come out of it. Some fun moments there.
Yeah, cool. That's great, man. So will that be like a Simon Kinny-Lewis record, or will it come under some other name?
No, I don't really want it to be that. It will have just everybody on there. Nate Ginsburg, who's on piano, he plays amazing beautiful piano on that, man. It's just so organic. His solos in the studio, and I filmed most of it. So
Of
there's
course
going to
you
be,
did.
you'll see it. You'll see all it soon. Dwayne Pate is just great, and he's, they're all fun guys to hang with. I've got to know them a little more the second trip, and Andy, who has toured to Australia a few times. He's headlined, the Thredbo Blues and a bunch of festivals out here. I really can't wait to have him on there. He's just awesome, and our drummer Tony just did a great job as well. So it's a very organic sort of thing. So we'll just have the names of who's going to be playing on there.
Yep.
And it's just going to be called A Day in San Jose, because that's what it was. It was 9 tracks done in a day at Reed's recording studios and in San Jose. And the studios over there are so cheap and so good, and there's so many of them. It was
Wow.
It's amazing. So when I said to Tony, we were doing some shows in Melbourne, and we're driving back, I said, why don't we record something? And Tony's like, oh yeah. I said no, this trip, in the States, you just, and he goes, oh yeah, totally, so it was $350 a day,
Wow.
and that's US, but a day, and great engineer, and the guy was so efficient, great sound, and it's like so yeah, I mean, whilst we're there, it was well, might as well. I was still waiting on mixes to come through from Bad Whiskey, so
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? While you're there, that's killer. That's great. So, man, what's coming up now? So you've still got some Bad Whiskey launches around the place, is that right?
Yeah. The gig I'm really looking forward to is our December one at the Spotted Mallard in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be our only Melbourne launch. We've done 3 in Sydney, and I'm looking forward to playing Bluestone Blues Festival for New Year's in Melbourne.
Oh, great.
So I'm doing a little trip down there on the last week, and the Spotted Mallard, which 29th
Yep.
is the date, right? So 29th of December at the Spotted Mallard, and we have the Kevin Buckingham Band opening for us, and we have Tim Holzman, also a great slide player, opening for us there as well. So the 29th of December, Spotted Mallard. We're flying the guys down. It's going to be a blast, and yeah, it's. I mean, every time we do a show of the album, it's just so fun for me, because, when we recorded the album, it was kind of a little fresh. The songs were fresh, and now we know them so well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we can play with them more, and the interaction's just really fluent and just fun. It's just really, really fun.
Excellent, man. That's great. Well, the record sounds fantastic, so yeah, I can only imagine how it's grown live. That's really cool.
Yeah, it has, yeah.
Nice, man. And 2019, anything in the works for next year, or are you just trying to round out 2018?
Yeah, I've got some dates in. I mean, I'll be updating this site again soon. We've got so we are at Goulburn Blues Festival, and we're at Tumbara Festival, and I am doing supports for Chris Cain in May. I've got 6 shows there. He's
great.
playing all over, and we'll be going back to June, to the States in June, to promote Bad Whiskey and A Day in San Jose, and we're looking at the Fountain Blues Festival, and the shows aren't confirmed yet, but we're on there, right? We're working right now on it, so
Great,
it's going to be
fantastic.
a big year. I feel. I think this album in particular, my managers just sent a bunch out to all the Australian Blues and Roots contributors and friends, and people that we feel, Matt Sheard from Super Amps, and just people that have supported me and helped me out, in any way, friends that have, know how hard it is to be a musician full time, that have just gone out of their way to help me with all this stuff. It's been amazing. So we've sent all those out, and we're looking forward to, we've got some, interviews with some good presenters in the States and stuff coming up as well. So,
Excellent.
you know, possibly some live TV performances as well next year, and so a whole bunch of stuff. It's really, you know, it's been great. I mean, this album for me is really special because it's the band that I'm playing with. You know, it's my band.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like, you know, I've hired a session guy, drummer, or it's like, hey, learn these songs. Like, we're playing these songs. It's in our blood now when we do these tracks, and the guys are just, as I said before, they're on fire. Like, it's just next level since they played with Josh. So I've got Josh Smith to thank for that.
I think they were doing okay beforehand, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they were okay before, but you know, it's like they really brought it to the table these last shows. So it's just awesome seeing them, you know, at the top of their level.
Yeah.
They're really.
That's awesome, man. That's so good. Well, man, I'm so happy for you, and I know you've worked incredibly hard to build your career to this point. So it's really a combination of great things happening to you, but you've put the yards in, the hard yards.
Thanks to guys like you as well, Matt, for the support. You know, it's and you know, what a great podcast you have, and you know, and you know, just some of the people that you've interviewed are just some of my favorite guitar players, and I just think that's, you know, I really value, you know, people with your integrity and efforts and stuff, keeping, you know, people aware that there's some great music out there and keeping people informed, you know. People are coming to town, or an artist. I mean, I remember when I nearly missed Robben Ford when he came out, and, you know, it was like, God, I don't know if I'd be able to live with myself if I missed him, you know, when I was growing up, and, you know, he had all these records and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a really great podcast, and I really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot, and thank you for coming back, and thank you for being on it twice, because we think you're great. So thank you, man.
I'll keep you posted with the videos.
Yes, I'll keep my eye, and we'll stick all your links on our show notes for this podcast. But yeah, if anyone just Google Simon Kinny-Lewis, you're going to find your website and a heap of really great stuff as well.
Great, man. Cheers.
All right. Well, mate, thanks again. And hope to catch you at a show soon.
Awesome, mate. Thank you very much.
All right, there you go, Simon Kinny-Lewis. Great to have him on the show. He's a fantastic bloke and an incredible musician. And it's great to see him doing so well. So please check out those links in the show notes. Check out the new album, Bad Whiskey. And great stuff. I'm super proud to have a world-class blues rock musician hailing from my hometown of Sydney and doing fantastic things. All right, just about to go, but before I do, just a bit of news. You can listen to this show through Spotify now. You can subscribe and do all that kind of stuff. So if you're on Spotify, there you go. Of course, you can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, heaps of ways to get the show. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it, because you'll get the show delivered free to your device every single episode. All right, thank you so much for joining me. My name's Matt Wakeling. You've been listening to the Guitar Speak podcast, and I'll catch you next time. Bye now.